We looked at this at the very beginning, and some of us advocated that 2 years ago, that when Joint Policy Committee was putting out its first paper on all this, that we'd say at the top very clearly, we don't have much of the authority that we need to do this, and not lead people by reading this great paper to believe that that all of this can be done just as a matter of, okay, we'll do number one and then number two and number three. So, you know, I think Climate Bay Area is leading us. I think it's a transition kind of approach, because I think we're headed towards something different in terms of governance. I can't say what that is yet, and my agency certainly couldn't say. But we clearly are going to need, as we said, stronger action, and whether that can be done in the current structures is a question mark. Yeah.
Doesn't Backerman have some enforcement authority?
Yes, they do. Over stationary sources.
And they're developing stronger policies on CO2, right?
Yeah, they developed a stationary source fee. It's small to begin with, but they regulate the industrial and stationary sources for all sorts of pollutants in the region, and they've added CO2 to that. And this fee is a modest fee to cover some of the costs of their work now on climate change. But it's probably most accurate to say there are questions about authority. I think that's fair. Okay. There's authority that you want to use, and there are questions about other authority that you could use. And I think certainly the regional agencies at this point are starting with the authority that clearly they have, and clearly that they're comfortable enforcing. The regional agency boards are all made up of local elected officials. So there's an interesting, and this will be interesting as we go ahead over the next few years, play between regional and local and regional, and we're feeling our way with that. So are they.
One more question. Yeah. Can you specify how the public can plug into this? You were saying you're going to grow it, but how will that happen?
In terms of Climate Bay Area?
Yeah, Climate Bay Area. In terms of the stakeholder.
We're going to have we're going to try and have few meetings. We're going to try and do this mostly as an electronic network, so that'll be the easiest way for anyone to plug in. And we don't have that set up and going yet. We will have quarterly meetings that will be open, obviously, to everyone, and we'll set agendas so that we can have a fair amount of back and forth. So for now, those are the two ways and these meetings that I'm talking about in each of the counties that we're doing to do the scans of what are the key projects and what are the key barriers and opportunities. Getting in on those would be smart and good. Yeah.
So, I'm probably like other people, my eyes sort of glaze over when all these entities and names and all this stuff come up, so it's always a little bit difficult to get grounded, when stuff happens. But one of the things that I would like to hear a little bit more about is you said there are these 4 areas, and one of them was what strategies will move the needle.
Yeah.
So, strategy is sort of a vague word. I mean, the rest of it, but, like, when you say strategies, I mean, what are you thinking of? What's the scope of a strategy? I mean, can you give us some sense of what strategy means in the way that you're thinking about it?
Sure. We're thinking of strategies in kind of a practical sense, in that you could see GHG reductions after a certain amount of time. They're that specific. So if we put just look at our list of 6 things the JPC is working on. If we put together regional/local parking policies or parking program for the region, parking pricing program, if we did that, that would be an example of a strategy, and one that, again, we think has a great potential to move the needle. This is not endorsing any of these, but CCA is certainly a strategy in this sense, and certainly one of the ones that would be on a list of things that could potentially move a regional energy retrofit, a commercial and residential retrofit program for the region would be, we would call that a strategy.
I see. So strategy, so it's sort of like a particular plan for trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in a particular sector or something like that. But what if, I mean, do you think strategy in terms of something like sustainable development as a strategy, as an approach, a more integrated kind of approach, as opposed to these sort of piecemeal things that, I mean, maybe you could do them, but if they're not tied into a broader sense of where you're going in terms of economic development or, you know, something like that, is that
Sure.
Is that part of the discussion?
You bet. And that really, a lot of that is going to fall under the first one of the 6 that I listed, the sustainable community strategy that is called for in SB 375. Now, there are big discussions going on as to what's going to go into the SCS and what's not. But we have some time here in this region to do it because that has to be done over the next 4 years. So the sustainable community strategy is all about transportation and land use, but it can involve and should involve a whole set of other things. And our agencies are not here yet, but I'll tell you where this could go, is that this could become, over all the plans that we have, the Air District does an ozone plan, we're doing a clean air plan now, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission does a regional transportation plan. You know, there are a whole series of plans in the region. The SCS could become the overall framework for that planning in the region. I mean, in theory, the SCS is the closest we've come yet to having potentially some sort of regional planning approach.
And what's SCS now?
SCS is Sustainable Community Strategy. Should I back up on this one? So SB 375 passed last year. It requires each metropolitan area to do what's called a sustainable community strategy at some time frame, and our time frame works out so that it has to be done in 4 years. It has to lead into the regional transportation plan because we just finished a regional transportation plan. Our SCS has to be, we have more time. San Diego starting on theirs actually right away, I think, so they're on that time frame. And the state is going to give each region a target for millions of metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions to be reduced by that sustainable community strategy. You have to create a strategy to meet the target. And that's the one enforceable piece that we have for a region out of AB 32. Coming down out of all that language about we encourage or we support, here's the one piece that's going to be a requirement. So there's a lot of interest in this. It's going to have a lot to do with what's the target. The targets could be very modest, the target could be more aggressive, and the targets are being set, our target will be set by about this time next year. And the target will be set in a process of negotiation between the region and the state. And the Air Resources Board is charged with carrying this out. So it's really, it could be a terrible boondoggle. I mean, the worst thing that could happen here, just to think negatively for a minute, is that it's already taking a tremendous amount of time and energy and staff time. And I mean, there's probably a conference on SB 375 every other week now, sometimes that many in the Bay Area. The potential, though, is that it really could be an integrated plan for how we are going to develop and redevelop the region. So it has a lot of potential, and it has a lot of potential to pull the agencies together. So MTC and ABAG have the lead, but the Air District has a lot to do with, and wants to have a lot to do with how this is produced. The cities have a tremendous interest in this, and how that's going to go with the cities and the regional agencies. And BCDC on the sea level rise side of things. I mean, a lot of our development could be around the bay, and there's a lot of good reasons to be developing around the bay for various reasons.